Welcome to the College Rivals Podcast, where it's all about heated rivalries within track and field and weekly innovative discussions on how we revolutionize the sport of track and field into a professional league on par with the NBA and the NFL. And now, your host whose favorite thing in life is to disrupt society for the good, Simon Bowen. Welcome to College Rivals, where rivalries begin and never ends.
Ladies, when you reflect back on that performance and other quality individual performances all of you have run during your time, and now you think about the state of our sport in terms of it still being a semi-professional league. Michelle, you mentioned briefly, and you're right, you guys were young ladies in college, but you were putting up some astounding performances. I mean, I'm curious to know how challenging it was for each of you, say you decided to transition or you wanted to transition into becoming a pro athlete in quote once your eligibility was ended. Do you think justice was served?
I think at the time, um, looking back, I feel very envious of what the athletes have today. Bowerman Track Club, even Atlantic Track Club, all the track clubs. There's all these track clubs. You can move to elevation. You can, get invited to train with this person and that person. There's a lot of cohesiveness and a lot of team. You leave your college team and you can go to another team. And I know I didn't have that. I trained by myself. I came home. I worked with my high school coach. I trained, by myself in Delaware at Brainerd Creek State Park. Made the world cross country team basically because the park here is one of the hardest parks to run in the whole East Coast. But it was a lot of alone time, and I'm very envious of what these athletes have.
It's the right word.
Yeah, I'm very envious. And I think back to how fast could I have run, but there's a transition for everything, people are running, people ran faster in our era than they did earlier. And they're running faster now than we did. And it's because of what they have and what the changes that have been made. So it's the way the sport's supposed to grow. But I do feel wow, that would have been nice. And I did have a little bit when I moved to Eugene and I worked with Dick Brown and I trained with Susie Hamilton and um, Sylvia Mosqueda and, a group and Michelle. I went back and trained with Michelle Demiro Ave. I did have it for a little bit, but not for long enough to.
But Vicky, what if you had a structure in place, very similar to how college basketball, how to have the draft? I don't know what it would call, but one of the things that we're trying to do here is reimagine track and field in the sense of it is a professional league at the moment. It is a semi-professional league. Imagine what it would be like if, when you graduated, because you were putting up some really outstanding performances and you had some structure in place. Talk us through, imagine if you had that, what life would be like for you.
And I think before you all answer that, I think it's important for listeners to put in context that each of you were running at an elite level, right? So
individually, yeah.
Individually,
Collectively.
Yeah, and collectively, but transitioning from college to quote unquote pro.
Right.
If individuals like yourselves found it difficult to transition.
Oh yeah.
That says a lot about the sport. And I know things are different now, but compared
Can I on my part,
Mhm.
because Vicky, when she toward her, when she was transitioning, it was just shortly after the Olympics for her. Kathy and they're distance runners. I know for me, it was hard leaving the team structure and then trying to be that individual.
Yes.
And not having the team to train with.
Yep.
So that was extremely hard for me. One motivation level, like in terms of, okay, me getting up and now meeting my coach after work or something of that nature to go work out. It was a totally different mindset than when you were at the collegiate level and everybody had a common goal.
Correct.
Yeah. And there were less opportunities for like a shorter distance runner. Like Vicky and I could do cross country. We could do the road races and keep keep the sponsorships happy, the sponsors happy. Whereas, Michelle, you're running uh, some shorter events and really like, what are you aiming for? You want to make an Olympic team or a world championship team. So you're not as visible all
Right.
year round. Whereas we could be like jump in a road race and say, look, I'm in state. Can you sign me?
Right.
Yeah.
And you kind of like, I remember when I graduated, I stayed a 5th year. Vicky, you stayed cross country, right? And then you
Yeah.
didn't, but I
I
had
stayed around for that 5th year.
Right.
Yeah.
so we won the NCAAs in cross country, and Vicky signed this big contract with Nike at the time, and we were like, "Wow, that's amazing!" Because um, there were we knew when I was at high school, like I knew I wanted to make the Olympic team or something, but I didn't really think about what it would be like to be a professional athlete. And so that was the first taste. Is like, wow, she just gets paid to run. That's awesome. So and then shortly after that, I got a deal with Reebok a little bit later, not as big. I did not deserve what Vicky was amazing.
Let's just say big was not like, we're not talking $50, we're talking
That-
$50,000 a year.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that. Yeah.
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 Important. That's a very important point.
Yeah.
though.
It was 50 grand a year.
Which was huge, right?
Huge.
Right.
Yes. Huge.
Now that's like probably like the lowest level of athlete and science, right? Or
Yep.
but someone that's 6th in the Olympics, I think they're getting, what are they getting? Who knows? But that's inflation, and that's the way the sport is more professionalized. But yeah, I think with a lot of the training groups, I had a training group with Reebok and then New Balance, Nike, but it wasn't as formal and it wasn't as professional, and the managers weren't as professional without my level of running that they are now. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. It's evolved to where it is now, but it definitely, like you said in your preview, the sport needs to continue on with the professionalism. And then why are we not? The World Championships were in Eugene, but I feel like, I was the only one watching or interested. I'm like, why this is the first time that it's ever been in the United States. And why are not some of the American athletes household names?
That's
Very
correct.
important. Very good point.
Which is why we created College Rivals, is to be able to reimagine using real life situation, athletes from the past and current. You talk about Vicky, because I was looking at those performances. For me, Vicky at the time while in college, I mean, you said 50,000, that's chump change. If you think about it, right? One of the things that I've been trying to do is equate, and I think I can actually do that. I've been trying to equate what we know our athletes to be pro or semi-pro, and I'm actually comparing them to other sports in NFL and NBA, right? If you think about it, $50,000. The times that Vicky was running, Jasper in one of our episode says no one think in track that you actually can get rich from running. In fact, he's actually it's the truth. But I would want to change that narrative to say we actually we should be able to can choose a sport, right? Say I want to be a pro, and imagine for me, and if I could throw some figures out.
The trombone.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
The weather is getting bad here and I have to.
okay, thanks, Michelle.
All right. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
Ladies and gentlemen, Michelle here in out. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you,
Thanks.
everybody.
All
Be
right.
safe
Yeah.
and warm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hunkering down. I am.
Yeah.
Okay. Be safe.
Bye.
Bye, Michelle.
But Vicky, as I was saying, if you really think about what you did, including Kathy. I mean, nothing really has changed from back then with you guys versus now in terms of how the sport should have evolved. It still remains the same where people are working 9 to 5 jobs and still showing up to try something to train. What's what? That is ridiculous.
So if we, I put your contract in perspective, Vicky and Catherine, you said you also read afterwards. Well, compare that to other sports. You can be on an NFL practice squad, make 6 figures. You have your food, all your training, everything. Only thing you have to do is place to live. Now, if you make in track, you got to pay for the coaching. If you want to have a nutritionist, massage therapist,
Yep.
all of that, And so if you look at all the sports today that have minor leagues or development leagues that make more than track athletes, they don't have those extra costs that track athletes incur. It's one of the things that in track we got to reimagine the sport. And we've talked a lot about more of a team concept, making the sport a little bit more digestible to fans,
Right.
having meets in huge markets. Eugene, Oregon is great, but should it have been in Houston, Texas, Atlanta? I don't know, but
Or
place
New York.
easily too,
Yeah. Or New York.
or New York, where you can get a direct flight.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of it is now the contracts are going to the best of the best. And like you were saying, Michael, that even a practice squad person is getting, more money than I made, as being sixth in the world. So, these kids are leaving college and they're signing pro contracts because the feel is make the money while you can, right? Like if you're being offered $250,000 as a college sophomore, then why would you say no? I said no after the Olympics because I wanted to go back to Villanova and win an NCAA title, for cross country, which is probably stupid. I mean, there's so many people that today would be like, why the heck did you do that? You could make so much money.
Now you do, but now you don't have to choose because of the NIL.
Right. Now I wouldn't have to choose, right? I could make both. I could do both. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. For me, it was important to come back and run for Villanova, and 3 girls redshirted, Kathy, Michelle, and these people came back. We did it for Villanova. So
Yeah.
the loyalty is sort of gone. The money is there. Grab it while you can. Because I think, again, as you're looking at this all of thing, because the things aren't set up for the longevity of the sport, maybe. So grab the money while you can because, it's hard to keep the money.
Yes, and you could get reduced or,
Immediately. Yeah.
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 And that's why promoting or advocating for some stability around some type of structure where any potential athlete that have ambitions to become a pro can physically see something that say, okay, if I end up here, I don't have to worry about paying rent.
Right.
How am I going to get to track meet, chiropractor, masseuse? All of that would have been taken care of. A proper club system.
God forbid.
When you guys were running, you really didn't. Some people didn't even have a club.
No.
You kind of create your own situation. Like I remember having an opportunity to move here and there, but I wanted to say I moved from the Philly area up to Boston because I Reebok was up here and that was my first shoe contract. But and that's what they suggested, but it wasn't like a real training group. But I see your
Right.
point about why not bring like the professional athletes? Like, why can't they compete as a team against, the Bowerman Track Club? Is that still a thing? I don't know.
Yes.
Versus the NYAC or something, and
Yes.
get a story around it. And
Correct.
did the paper. I don't know if this is controversial on that, but like for Georgetown, I did this little paper about sports betting, and I think that we need to professionalize it even further and
Yeah.
allow sports betting.
Yeah.
Sport-
I would be in support of that as well.
Yeah, create
It's what,
like
yeah.
for people that are not interested. I mean, there's so much money in these other sports because everyone's interested in it, and there's so much money, and you know the TV contracts and everything. But there's, we can't force it on people. But I think
Yeah.
if we create a story around each
Yeah.
path, and have a stake in it, and it's like going to the horse race.
Yeah.
If it's going to be allowed, then open it up to the
So
Yeah.
Kathy and Vicky, you both are still close to running, close to the sport in different aspects. What is your thought about uh, viewing track and field specifically, track meets specifically, in comparison to other sports? Like, I know when I left, I coached a track for a while. Oh my God. And gone to meets, and you're just there forever, and
20 hours.
yeah. And so, we were talking about other sports that have it down to a science, like NFL is on target, exactly. NBA, baseball's trying to shorten the game. F1 motorsports, it's very structured. We're all F1 motorsports fans. What what do you think the sport track needs to do to make it more appealing to the less diehards?
Mhm.
Like you read 429, right? Now you tell that to the layman. I read 429 split.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, that is a little bit more in the mile than my 3,000 meter time. They're like, what's it? Did you run the 300,000 meters? I'm like, not an event, but
Right.
yeah. So the mile holds a little bit more water than the 3,000.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I still love watching track meets. We have family, close to family in Eugene. So we go every 4 years at the Olympic trials are in Eugene. We go, my husband's a soccer guy, but he loves track now. I still do enjoy track meets. I think for me, and it's great for the layman and the whole carbon plated shoe and the and all that. I mean, that's great. I mean, the 201 world record in Berlin Marathon, like all that stuff it's amazing. People love world records. For me, I'm like, there needs to be a little asterisk next to each of those because if we're running those crappy Converse spikes,
Oh yeah. Tasha usually says before the internet. That's the phrase Tasha uses here. Before the internet.
For the internet.
asterisk, little asterisk. I still enjoy watching track meets. I do know a lot of people that I know in my circles. We still enjoy track meets. So I don't know. I think that even with the sparkles that they add and the fireworks, like the way they introduce the athletes, I would have hated that. I mean, it's great for the sport, but I would have been like, nah, let's don't do that for me. So I feel like they've done a lot to really try to engage people. I don't know what they can do more.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing that bothered me watching the World Championships on TV is the empty stands. How can
Yeah.
I convince my kids this is a great sport? Look at this. Look at this, and there's no one in the stands.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. Why did that happen? I don't know. I don't know half the story, but the stands need to be filled for it to be on TV because I have the commentators were all, Otto Bolden is awesome. I think Sandra Farmer Patrick, I think.
Yeah.
Sanya
And your return.
She was great. I love listening to them. They are so knowledgeable because I not as knowledgeable in the shorter events, and I love listening to their expertise. And and Kara Goucher, I think, was there, and she was great too. So I think the commentators really help, especially
helped.
people that are learning, right? But there has to be people in the stands. Somehow that should be the number one priority. I know they have TV deals, but don't put it on TV. The stands are empty because you're not going to convince people to sit there and watch it if people can't even go to the event itself.
Yeah. I guess,
Well,
Kathy, Kathy, one of the things you talk about empty stands, that's a very important point from a marketing perspective. How I envision track and field in the future is people, the powers to be, don't just get up overnight and says, "Oh, I want to be in Washington. Let's keep the World Championship in Washington." No, we
Right.
need to carefully think about what market, what location, why you want to be there. Because, you mentioned about sport betting. Imagine for me, it's a carnival-like atmosphere. There is restaurants pumping, there is bar, there is betting. People are buzzing about the next matchup, the rivalry.
Totally.
That adds to part of how people end up coming in the stands. You can't just put the product and say, watch it. It's actually your environment, what's happening around, what's the buildup. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And what does it take to get to that level? I don't half the people have no idea.
Yeah.
They like the professional runners make it look so easy. Like you mentioned that, Vicky, the marathon. What is 2:01 for a marathon? That's like what, 4:35 per mile, something like that. Crazy.
Right.
Right?
That's crazy.
And so, what does it take to get to that level? Like, why not? Let's educate the viewers. Let's get people excited. Like, and maybe that does take like an incentive for some of the viewers. Like maybe they, not to promote gambling or any bad behaviors, but it's part of the sport, and it's in so many sports. Like my son, he's a sophomore at Villanova. His fantasy football is huge.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like during like and
Yes.
and he's a competitive athlete, he plays soccer, but like he definitely that like trumps everything,
Yeah.
and so it's not so much about, and it's a little bit of money, but it's more like, just the competitiveness and like knowing about each player and putting teams together. And I feel like, track and field needs to get to that point where they can lure the unexpected fan, someone that yeah. Because honestly, like sometimes in the longer events, the 10,000, does anyone really want to watch that many laps?
I do.
Be honest. No,
Sometimes it's the most exciting race.
like you have commentators, and if you have people like a great race or like at a world championship, and I mean, I do, I want to watch it. It's just I can't. It's a tough sell for
Yeah.
the guy walking down the street. But
Which is why the split screen was great. They came with a split screen, so they would still show the race and they would
right,
have something else on, so that was awesome. Like the
yeah,
whole split screen, great.
I love hearing about the different people. I love hearing about, oh, well, so and so is a full-time lawyer, or so and so is this. The background information is great because when it comes down to it, it's entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Want to know, we want to connect. We want to feel like the human connection. Even though there are these amazing athletes, we want to be connected, and that's how you draw in the fans, I think.
Yeah. I have one final question about the future of track, and we talk about gambling, um, the team concept, and how you guys can have who are out running now can have a better team oriented situation that they're in. And a lot of that leads to structure. NCAA track and field is relatively structured. I mean, they probably can make some change, but you get outside of that and you have Diamond League, you have invitationals, you have road races. And so I think a part of what track needs to be, and I'm interested in your opinion, is kind of be a little bit more structured. So like for gambling, for instance, um, you need to know what the schedule is so you can begin to do that. Like fantasy football is great because you know what the whole schedule is and everything. Track really don't know that. The Diamond League meets, but you're not guaranteed who's going to show up and who's not, right? So
Right.
try to get more structure, I think, is an important
Right.
aspect.
I think if there's more money for it, the athletes will show up because there'll be more money for them too.
Right.
Right. So, unless they don't need to show up. unless they're, just Sydney McLaughlin, who runs like a couple races a year and she's done, breaks a world record. Oh, that's it for the year, But I think it, I think it'll be great for the sport if um, they, if they, if there's more money in it, they'll show up. Why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And the structure is different. I mean, they talk about the the college life and the NCAA life, and it's a lot of races. So the professional life, people pick and choose, right? You don't have to worry about a championship NCAA. I mean, my longest stretch in '88, we started in September during cross country, and I raced September 25th for the Olympic final. That was 13 months later, running an Olympic final. And I ran well, but then I was done after that. So, the professional world is great. You can pick and choose your races, but it's also great because if that money purse for them is what your next, I mean, take the NCAA championship, make it a money purse, right? So instead of going for a championship when our day meant no money, but a potential step to your next future, and then you make it a money purse, then it's the same structure. It's just a different prize.
Right.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that we are pushing in our discussions. It's how you look at currently what we have, which is the NCA structure, right? Because you need to start from somewhere. And we believe majority of the success, especially in the United States, LA 2028 is coming up. And it's interesting how they're going to prepare for that. I've already seen the chief exec looking at putting, trying something a little bit different, closely attuned to some of what we're talking about, putting some, I don't know, 2-3 hour meets into some key markets, Texas, California, Miami. So it's going to be interesting. But for me, you can't just jump straight into, okay, I want to put it in Miami, right? Because a lot of the athletes comes from the NCAA structure. And one of the things that I'm pushing is look to see what's currently happening at the NCAA. Why did Kathy and Vicky and Michelle run so fast, or Celeste, while they were in college? Why did they do so well at the Penn Relays? Was it more kind of the environment, the vibes, the atmosphere, with fans full? Those are the kind of stuff. I'm afraid at this point in time, people are trying different things, but they're not necessarily looking at all the different pieces that needs to come together in order to be able to can deliver something that at the end of the day fill the stadium, as what you said, Kathy.
Yeah. I mean,
It's-
I understand what you mean because I feel like the professional athletes are so high level, but sometimes when they're running, it just seems like a time trial, and it's not like they're up for it, but it's just okay. And that's great for them. But what about the spectator? Where's the drama?
Right.
That's correct.
Very good
You
point.
know.
But I also wonder how much time and effort has to go into it. And I know it's a give and take, and I know that you can't have what you're talking about with the more money, the more excitement without the social media build up to it. But I wonder how much of the social media obligations these athletes have, how much it plays a part in their athletic life. I would have shriveled up and died if I had to put myself out there social media wise as an athlete and also get to the line. It wouldn't be me. So
That's actually a good question because the other day I've been toying with okay, fine. Reverse now of what Thatcher says before the internet. Now we have the internet and we have all these distractions. To me, Vicky, I'm now toying in my head. How would I manage this? Because in truth and in fact, most athletes are actually, and this is actually not the way to go. And that's why I think we need a real professional league. A lot of athletes now are heavily dependent on social media, which means that they have to think about how do I get the next content to put on TikTok,
Yep.
Instagram, right? So
Is that what you're saying?
yeah, And that's not what, in its truest sense, you want those things to organically occur, not to sit down and figure out, okay, I have to make sure I get this shot in because
Yeah,
this is how I'm going to get paid. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Kathy, if we had to do that when we were in college, can you imagine? We were like, we were so nerdy. I mean, would you want anybody to know what her day was like?
Oh my God, I would die. Like I remember my freshman year, or I had a lot of injuries my first couple years, and I felt like I was always coming back from injury because I kind of like was naive. I was only 17 and as a freshman, and um but I was well recruited in high school, and I remember a professional running for Nike. One of the Nike execs who used to be a college coach said to me, Kathy, we thought you were all done. You know, we after high school, we thought you were done. You were never going to run again. You were so bad. Right. Because I stepped back,
Wow.
step back. And so if I just thinking, wow, I'm glad I didn't know that people were saying that. I mean, of course, I felt that competitiveness within myself and I wanted to get back and get running, but I didn't have any doubts. But I wonder if, if it was today and I was reading message boards or, just listening, seeing what people said on social media, I think it would be really crippling.
It was appealing. I agree. That's a perfect word. Yep.
Yeah.
And
Which leads
it's tough to have that tunnel vision, but it was easy
yeah.
for us because we didn't, track and field news came out once a week
What's a month?
Which
like,
which
oh, okay, that's our competition. All right, yeah.
yeah, which leads me to and this is Kathy and Vicky. Kathy, if you had to name one person that you deem to be the ultimate rival, and now we're talking individual, who is that person that you constantly met that you had to battle with during your time?
Oh wow. Like as a collegiate,
Yes, as a
oh,
collegiate.
as a collegiate. Oh boy. That's a tough one because I feel like, I was always running behind Vicky. And so like what was that? I was
What
battling
me?
second, second place. I mean, I remember one year when I came in second at the NCAAs in the mile,
Yeah.
and Marty thought he was so funny. He's like, Kathy, you're second in the country in the mile.
Uh-oh.
Unfortunately, first is lives down the hallway from you.
Uh,
Okay, I didn't look at it that way. Like I thought it was
yeah.
an advantage to have
So so Vicky was your internally was your main that you guys were literally competing.
Well, I mean, okay, so Vicky, so in '96, I wanted to make the Olympic team. I wanted to make the Olympic team, but in '96, I was the closest, and Vicky had made the Olympic team in '88. So I feel like, yeah, Vicky always kicked my ass, like we call it, and that's just, but I didn't care because she was so good. She was sixth in the
Yeah.
world. Like
Yeah.
it, for me to have her as a teammate, we
Yes.
had fun, and and we had so many great memories and teams and championships, but it's a gift to have that. And but in '96, like we're both professional athletes now. I think Dickie was a mom already, and I had fallen. I had some rib issues, so leading into the trials, I wasn't really that confident. But then I won my semifinal heat, and I thought, wow, I think I can make this team.
Mm.
So, um,
Who did you face?
I faced Vicky.
We're Villanova runners, Daddy. Was Michelle in that one too? She was in the 8. I know.
There were so many Villanova runners in the 5.
Sherry.
Wow.
Sherry.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
Sherry. Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Sherry Goddard. Yeah.
Debbie. I don't know if
I don't think Gina was in it. Well, Gina wasn't in the 15.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but there were tons of Villanovas like on this, like in the at least in the first heats, right?
Okay. Okay.
Final, I know it was I think was Sherry in there? I think.
Sherry's in the final. Debbie was in the final. You were in the
Wow.
final.
Yeah.
I was in the final.
Yeah.
I
So-
guess it just shows you the depth. Because
Yeah,
as I said to you when I was reviewing,
Wait, I want to hear I want to hear the ending of Kathy's story.
Okay, so long story short, Vicky made the team, and
okay.
I did not make the team. And we're in drug testing, and I was like, oh, this is a one time one time that I wanted to beat Vicky. Not that I wanted to beat Vicky another time. Like I didn't. Not that I didn't
Yes.
want.
If we got second and third, it would have been perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was disappointing. Regina Jacobs won the race, of course, and then it was Julie Henner, and I tied for fifth with Sarah Thorsett. And it was one of those tactical races. And I thought, well, I choked up, and Vicky was so relaxed and she went flying by and made the team. And I was just so disappointed. And that's the only, I guess, so I'm not saying that Vicky was my rival, but it was the one big disappointment that I had. I mean, I had a lot of disappointments, but that was a major one.
Yeah, you really wanted to get her, eh? Okay.
Well, because she was third. If she was fourth, or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
so it was surreal because here we are, running in high school and then trying to make the Olympic team, battling out 1500. So,
Yeah.
But Kathy won the Penn Relay Watch in high school.
Uh-oh.
You didn't mean high school.
Yeah, and so Vicky, yeah, talk to us. Is there anyone individually that you face in college or even in pro that you can actually single out that
Yeah, I would say
guys are
it,
battling?
it was Susie Favor, mostly because we were both tops in our events, and then she was 815 and I was 1500, 3000. And so we both had the same range. She obviously was much faster than me in the 800, but I was better in the 3000. We didn't know who was better in the mile. Our coaches sort of kept us apart from each other. We never really raced each other until my last indoor season. We finally met in the mile, and she beat me at the indoor NCAAs. And for me, it was like off my back. It was done. She beat me, whatever. It was
Wow.
done. So, so she was probably the one that other people made them. And I was sick. I was sick for 2 days before that race. Like when my kids are like, Coach Mom, I'm I'm just sick. And I'm like, it's because you have a big race.
But she was not your hero.
What, Kathy?
this is how tough Vicky was. She got beaten by Susie, but they came back and won the 3000 at the NCAA. So, you're talking two of the best collegiate runners in history, like Vicky and Susie. Of course, they were rival. Yeah, Susie was a year or two younger, maybe, or yeah.
Okay, that's right.
But Vicky, how many NCAA titles did you win?
8, but she won 9.
And she won 9. Oh, okay.
So that's why, so Vicky, you saw Susie at the Collegiate Hall of Fame recently, isn't it? Wasn't she an inductee as well?
Yes, we were both inductees. Yep. Yep. And we actually trained together with Dick Brown. We for 96. I trained in Eugene, and she was living in Eugene at the time.
That just goes to show you because I actually have that list of inductees, both men and women. And when you look at those names, and I mean, Vicky, when you think about it, actually what stunned me was it's the first time they actually have created
Yeah.
the NCAA Collegiate Hall of Fame. It's strange enough. I thought that was around for a very long time, but the truth that in fact, you actually were at the first ever 30. Is it 30?
There was 20 men and 10 women.
10. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we first heard about it, it was a little I didn't quite sure what the guy was saying. I didn't really understand what the background was. And when we finally realized it, and then my whole family flew out to Eugene, and we made it a family trip. And we had very close friends in Eugene. And the day after we landed, we went for a bike ride and a run. My son and I were running, and my daughter and my husband were biking. And we went past our favorite restaurant, that being Johnny's, and we made the turn near the stadium. And as we made the turn, we saw all these banners hanging from the stadium.
Yeah.
And each athlete had their own banner, and we all stopped and started crying. I was like, wow, this is huge.
It is. It is.
For me, it was really important because my best years really were in college. I struggled after I graduated. I made the 96 team, but my best running, I think, really was done in college. And so it was nice to have that acknowledged.
Oh, that's
Which beautiful leads us into, well, I cannot overstate how much I've been waiting to bring you guys on the show. Your own personal journey and accomplishments all stand signatory to what makes a great team and why we still can't forget that magnificent world record distance medley run at the Penn Relays in 1988 was astounding, and to add even more fuel to the fire, all four of you ladies still can safely say, as of today, my record still stands us up now. The collegiate record for 34 years and counting. It is moments like this in history, or what we can expect in the future of the sport, to not just be about the glory and joy to the athletes, but how it can make them more financially viable for their work and appreciation of the sport of track and field we have all grown to love and still get goosebumps, fueled by passion, when we see or recount races like our world famous Villanova Wildcat ladies at the Penn Relays. Michelle, an apology for Celeste not being here, Kathy and Vicky, thank you so much for your time here in the studio with College Rivals. And I hope to reunite with you all one day in person. Thank you so much. In Jamaica, we would say one love. And of course, in the mighty of US of A, we say God bless America. Thank you.
And one before you all sign off too, I hope Vicky, Kathy, and Tasha, you as well. I hope you all appreciate what you've done for the future or the athletes that came after you. Like I said, that's the reason why I went to Georgetown. You think about this, the tremendous record Villanova still has. That's a big, no small part due to the legacy that you all created. So I hope you take time, to pat yourselves on the back and recognize, you make the coach's job a lot easier to recruit when you have legacies like yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And well said, Mike.
Special
And
time
to
for sure.
yeah. And
Thank
to our listeners around the world listening and watching, you can find show notes, links to the episode, and more by visiting thecollegerivals.com and subscribing to our YouTube channel, College Rivals Track. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
So thank you.
You.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the College Rivals podcast with Simon Bowen and his team of rivals. Please visit thecollegerivals.com for more information, and be sure to like and follow College Rivals Track and Field on Facebook. If you have any comments or would like to suggest topics for upcoming episodes, please email us at hello@thecollegerivals.com. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you soon.